Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about finding one's purpose because I do see a lot of people getting stuck on this, and even I myself got stuck on this for quite some time. And I just wanted to say boldly that you will find your purpose waiting for you on the other side of fear. You're not going to find it in the safe and predictable places. You will find it in the unknown and the spaces where you feel both excitement and terror at the same time. That thing that calls you, and the thing that lights a fire inside of your soul yet makes your hands tremble with fear, that is your doorway. And you see, the mind will try to come up with all these different kinds of excuses and tell you like to wait until you're ready and all these things, but the truth is you will never be ready. You just have to take the leap. And if you don't know where to start, I would recommend going back to your childhood. So the things that lit up your soul, and the things that you got lost track of time doing, and yeah, just the things that you love doing before the world told you what you should be doing, and before conditioning wrapped its hands around your imagination. Because you see, these things were no accident. Your childhood joys were like glimpses into your soul's blueprint, and they're like a map that was given to you before the noise of the world came and drowned it out. So to reclaim your purpose is to remember, is to strip away, all the conditioning and the expectations and the limitations, and to return to the essence of who you've always been. And to step forward towards that thing that scares you, because that is where you will find your magic. It's like I said, when your hands are trembling with fear and you're paralyzed with this fear, it's a good sign. It means that you're standing on the edge of something real, and it rises especially when you're about to step into something greater, something that will stretch you and transform you. And the more fear that you feel, the more certain you can be that this is exactly what your soul came here to do. And yes, you will face a lot of things, like especially resistance, and resistance wears many faces. It'll show up as procrastination or self-doubt and excuses, but at its core, it's really just fear. And it's not a fear of failure either. It's more of a fear of who you will become if you do succeed. So the stronger the resistance, the greater the calling. And take your fear as like a map. It's a map that's pointing you directly to what is most important for your growth. So don't run from it. You know, that's the worst thing you can do. You want to lean into it, because on the other side of that fear is the version of you that you've always meant to be. And I always say this to myself, the very essence of a warrior is the willingness to step into battle despite the fear. Because you see, these warriors, they're not going into battle without fear. That they have fear, but they're doing it anyway. And that is the essence of a true warrior. That's true courage. And another thing I wanted to mention is there will come a time in your path when you must close certain doors as an act of faith. Because you see, we like to cling to what is familiar, and we like to cling to what is comfortable, afraid that if we let go, we will be left with nothing. But in truth, it's keeping us from receiving what is truly meant for us. And God is always willing to fill our hands. God wants to give to us. But, we need to make that space. And I know it's not easy, walking away from habits, relationships, and beliefs that once gave us this comfort can feel like a big sacrifice. But when you surrender to something for the greater good, you will never be left empty handed. The rewards will come, and not always in the way that you would expect, but in ways that will affirm your growth and that will contribute to your expansion. And it'll align you with something deeper, and what is truly yours can never miss you. You just need to create that space for it to enter. And another thing I wanted to mention is isolation. Isolation is very important, and it's needed. Because remember, isolation is not loneliness, it's more like a sacred pilgrimage inward. Because the world is so loud and it's filled with voices that are eager to tell you who you are, what you should do, and how you should live your life. And for so long, even myself, like I listened and I let others define me and shape me and lead me in circles. Why? I believe it's because I didn't trust myself enough to take those reins. It's a harsh truth, but we got to face the truth, and you got to see what's holding you back. And another truth is that you will never find yourself in the reflection of someone else. You will only find yourself when you dare to sit with your own and know yourself, because and you'll hear this everywhere: know thyself. Why? Because self knowledge is self sovereignty. The more you know yourself, the less you can be controlled, the less you will be swayed by illusions and things like fear. So, don't be scared of isolation. Sometimes we must step away from, the warmth of being around people and the light and what's familiar, and walk into the unknown. And yeah, it may feel like darkness at first, but that is exactly where you will find your light. And I would know from experience, because there's so much lessons to learn in the darkness, in the unknown. And there's things in there that could be holding us back in our day-to-day life, and we're not even conscious of it until we take that dive in. And another thing is, because I ended up getting too comfortable in that darkness, because I avoided it for so long. But the light ended up dragging me out. And the darkness it'll always be there, and there will always be lessons to learn. But you need to know when it's time to take a step back and return to the world. But also as well, like, the I would say the more time you can spend in that stillness safely, the brighter you will become. And when you return to the world, you will not come back as the same person, because you would have aligned yourself. So you will come back as a force, and another thing is, like, true success is not born from following the crowd or chasing fleeting trends and stuff like that, because these things are always coming and going, and they don't last. And it's such a headache as well. So it's going to come from aligning with the essence of who you truly are. It's not about fitting a mold that others have created, and it's not about tailoring your work to what will grab attention or bring in profits. The real value lies in creating from a place deep within, from that raw, unfiltered part of yourself. That part of yourself that feels alive and that carries your truth. And when you approach your like when you approach your work from this authentic place, that raw place, you're not just adding to the noise of the world, because the world's noisy enough. We don't need more noise. You will be instead contributing to something unique, because when you follow what's popular, you're sacrificing something much more precious. You're dismissing the part of yourself that actually has the power to create something that's truly meaningful. And even if success comes from this path of following the crowd, it's not lasting and it's hollow. And yeah, you may gain fame and wealth, but deep down inside, something is not going to feel right. And it's going to keep haunting you until you face it, especially if you're a true person. So yeah, it's about bringing something into the world that can only come from you, from that place that is untouched by these external pressures. And when you stay true to that, like, the fruits that come from your labor will be real and nourishing and sustaining and long lasting. And it will connect with others on a level that is far deeper than anything that following the crowd ever could. So yeah, and that's where your spirit will thrive. And a lot of thing like a lot of the times I see something that holds people back is this drive to want to be right, this association with our ego and getting caught up in this whole battle of who's right and who's wrong, because it's such a distraction, and it drives us away from our true purpose and keeps us from what we're here to do. And I want to talk about this great battle that we perceive, the one that we project onto the world as a war between good and evil, because you see, this war is not truly out there, it's within. And it's always been within. We think it's external and we fight and we cause all this drama for what? The real war is so much closer, it's so much more intimate, and it's a war against our own forgetting. The moment we believe that we are separate from the divine, the moment we deny our sacred nature, we create conflict within ourselves and with others. We create this conflict with the world around us. And if you ask me, there's no other pain that is more unbearable than the pain of separation. So, yeah, and that's where suffering begins. Not because we're inherently broken, but because we keep looking outward for the enemy instead of realizing that the only thing that's keeping us from peace, so we can truly live our lives the way that we're meant to live it, is our resistance to truth. And the world is constantly reflecting our inner state. And when we remember who we are, we cease to deny that divinity. The war dissolves. There's no longer a battle left to fight. There's only returning home. There's no longer a need to point fingers and waste time in a losing battle when we could be creating. We were made to create. We are inherently creators, and we seem to forget that. And I learned something the other day which really hit home. And it's the literal meaning of the word sin, and it's of Hebrew origin, and it literally means to miss the mark. That's it. Miss the mark. So it makes me think, like, sin is not something that we condemn others for, or a life sentence, or something that requires redemption through rituals and external validations and being dipped in water. You don't need to be dipped in water to be whole again. Okay, you just need to remember when you forget. Because when we forget, what do? We remember, we turn around, we realign. That's it. It's just an invitation to come back to yourself. And you don't need a middleman to grant you that permission. You don't need anyone to grant you that permission to be whole again, because you already have been, and you always were. You've always been whole. And the moment you choose to step back into awareness and into love and into your truth, that is your redemption. So life's not about punishment. It's not about claiming your redemption from outside of you. It's about growth, and every so-called mistake is just another lesson. It's another lesson to learn from and to grow from. So yeah, it's a call back to love and to presence and to our higher self, because instead of shame and judgment and all these things, we can just meet ourselves with compassion and meet each other with compassion, knowing that forgetting is just, it's part of the journey, and remembering is always within reach. Because if you really think about it, everyone at their core is looking for the same thing. They're looking for that deeper connection to the self, even when we consciously, when we're not like conscious of it, and that's including the alcoholic down the street that's stumbling around. In this journey, no matter how chaotic and misaligned something may seem on the surface, it's all part of the process of returning to God. They're not just trying to escape life and numb the pain. They might not even know that they are subconsciously trying to dissolve their ego. They are trying to escape the illusion of who they think they are so they can reconnect to the pure essence that lies beyond the ego. Because you see, the ego is just a mask. It's a persona that we create to navigate this world. But beneath it, there's something far greater. There is the self, and the self is divine. The self is unshakable, and the self is eternal. And when we peel away the layers of fear and illusion and all these things, we start to touch that divinity within. And if you truly seek truth, then you must strip away everything you've been told and everything you think you know, and ask sincerely from your heart. Like, sit with God. Sit with God and ask Him from your heart. God, show me the truth. Give your life to God. Put your life in God's hands and tell Him to guide you and to show you the truth. I don't know why I said He, but yeah. Ask God to show you the truth, and you will be shown. Let it be from your heart. And let go of the need to figure it all out and to control and to analyze, because, like I said, the mind is just a tool. Yet truth is not going to come through logic. Okay? It's going to come through the heart, through a deep knowing that will bypass thought. Because intuition arrives instantly and without hesitation too. And the moment it comes, just grab onto it. Grab onto it, because if you wait, the mind will creep in with things like doubt and fear and all the reasons why you should ignore what your soul already understands. Because truth is not complicated, it's direct, it's immediate, and often terrifying as well. But if you have the courage to surrender, and surrender will do you wonders. If you don't believe me, just try it. Just surrender. It will change your life. So yeah, when you have that courage to surrender and to just trust in what moves through you before the mind tries to talk you out of it, you will be guided in ways that you have never imagined. So when that spark of knowing comes, follow it, because this is where you will hear the voice of the divine calling you home. And yeah, just stop judging each other, and stop worrying about who's right and who's wrong, and just ask God to show you the truth, and God will guide you. So yeah, just remember, we're all the same. We're all human, and we're all just trying to come back home. So show more compassion to yourself and to others, and you will find peace. And also, I wanted to mention before I go is, you don't have to take everything that I'm saying. Just take what resonates with you and discard what doesn't resonate with you. And do your own research, go out and experience these things for yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because I'm just speaking from my experience and from my perspective, but everyone has their own perspective, and you won't truly know until you go out there and face the fear. One of my biggest fears is actually being seen, and here I am. So the more you step into your fears, the more, like I said, the more peace you'll feel. So yeah, just remember, we're all the same. I love you, and I will see you soon. Take care.